as people trickle down the bottom. Maybe there's not more than two weeks, when they're on my chairs. So, wait for students too. Okay, yes. But my name is Jane Fidel. I'm the supervisor of Southern Indiana programs at the Center for Women and Families of Southern Indiana. I have been at the center just over 8 years, doing a variety of things. I started out on the crisis line for 2.5 years, answering the phone when people call, helping them find shelter and find resources and safety planning. Then I moved to being a prevention coordinator over in Kentucky. So I was in the schools doing a program called Green Dot, which is about bystander intervention and supporting students in intervening when they see dating violence, bullying, or sexual assault. And then for the last 3 years, almost, I've been over Southern Indiana. So I supervise case managers who have caseloads of people who've experienced violence. And I go out into the community to do things like this. So that's a little bit about my role. I'm not gonna ask you all to introduce yourselves, but number one, I'm horrible with names, so I will not remember any of them. And number two, you all know each other, so hopefully. But here's what I hope that we get done today. It's pretty ambitious. So I'm hoping we can get through all of it. There will be a little bit of skills practice too, because I don't like to leave a training where you all just listen to me talk. I want you all to say some things too. Okay. Group agreements, these are everywhere, things that we need to do. The two I really want to hone in on today, though, trauma is prevalent. Everyone has probably experienced trauma or knows someone who has experienced trauma in their life, so be sensitive to that. So we're going to talk about trauma-informed care a little bit. This speaks to that. And ELMO, that stands for enough, let's move on. If we get off down a bunny trail, because we only do have an hour, I may ELMO someone or myself and get us back on track. Okay. Here's what I hope you learned. At the end, there's going to be an evaluation that's really important to us. So hopefully I do hit on all of these things and you give a positive review. Not that we're on Yelp or anything, but okay. You ready?
Ready, yes.
So first things first, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with what these things mean. So sexual violence is an umbrella term that can mean a bunch of different things. So sexual contact directed at a person without their consent. And consent must be every single time in every interaction with every different person, clear, coherent, freely given, and ongoing. Every time. You probably know all this, right? Hopefully. Okay. If you need some more, a metaphor for what consent can look like in different situations, I would recommend going on YouTube and looking at the Consent is Tea video. It's a really good metaphor. But we don't have time to watch it right now, but it's great.
Consent is tea.
Content is tea, like drinking tea. Like drinking tea.
It's very good.
It's very good. Yeah, tea. Some statistics so that we know why I'm here. This is something that's happening all the time. You guys probably know this because you're working with people who have experienced this too. Every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted, and every 9 minutes, that person is a child. Over half of women have experienced sexual violence involving physical contact during her lifetime, and almost 1 in 3 men have experienced the same. So, how many people do you know? It's affecting everyone, right? And why is it kind of affecting everyone? Rape culture. Who's heard of rape culture before? Yeah. So, because we trivialize and normalize these things at the bottom, these things are things that happen every day. Things that we see that we brush off all the time. All of that holds up things like rape, drugging, molestation, stealthing, right? So until we stop normalizing these things are still going to be happening to 1 in 3, 1 in 4 people. This is just the culture that we live in. This is the air that we breathe, so we don't even notice it until someone points it out. Okay? It's just the way it is. But we have a chance to change it. We can be a person who is doing something different and supporting people who have experienced this. That kind of contextualizes sexual violence. Because we're going to be focusing on healthy relationships, I talked about sexual violence first. So now the next part is going to be intimate partner violence. Okay, all together. So get a quiz. I know you didn't sign up for a quiz on a Tuesday evening, but what do you think fills in the blanks? Intimate partner violence is a blank of behaviors used by one person to gain and maintain blank and blank over a person in an intimate relationship. This is the definition we use. So what do you think the blanks are?
Pattern.
The pattern for the first one, does anyone else agree? Raise a hand, who agrees? You think pattern? There's a pattern of behaviors. Good job. All right, what do you think of the second? Gain and maintain what and what over another person? Power and control. Yeah, that one's easy, right? That's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about. So I'm gonna pass out our power and control wheel. Just take one and pass it and then give you. So that you can look at it. So the pattern is really important. A one-off time of someone who hurts you for any reason is absolutely not okay. But intimate partner violence is characterized by the pattern. That it's happening over time and it's often a cycle, which is shown here. Around here, the cycle of violence. Did everyone have enough? Yeah, you get one, okay. So as you're looking at the power and control wheel, when an intimate partner violence situation is happening, it's usually characterized by these three phases. So first, tension building. So something is starting to happen. Maybe you're starting to walk on eggshells. Maybe the other partner is starting to get angry and you're trying to figure out how to de-escalate that. You could tell that something is going to happen, right? And so it just feels tense and uncomfortable all the time. Then an incident happens. An incident could be any of the things characterized in that wheel. It does not just have to be an incident of physical violence. It could be sexual violence. It could be withholding money. It could be not letting you see the children. It could be threats of violence. It could be any of those things on the wheel. That constitutes an incident, which is usually something that is surprising to people, that it's not just somebody getting hit is the incident. It could be any of those things. And then after the incident, usually the person who did the harm feels really bad or doesn't want that person to leave. And so then there's the honeymoon phase where they apologize, they bring flowers, they bring chocolates, they make their favorite meal, all that stuff, right? And then there's usually a sense of calm and then tension starts to build again. So in this cycle, usually the first time, it can take years to get to the first incident. Tension can build for a really long time. And then the honeymoon phase, that can be a long honeymoon phase. And then it starts to go faster and faster and faster. And so these cycles can happen in hours, in days, instead of over years. And usually the incidents escalate in severity over time. And so one of the reasons why it's so hard to leave is because there's good things about this, right? There's a honeymoon phase. You love this person at some point. You still want that person to be the person that they were when you first started dating them. You're living for that honeymoon phase, that good stuff. So it's kind of like a drug. Like you're living for the high, so you deal with the bad. Okay? So one of the things we're going to talk about, risks of staying versus risks of leaving. So that's why there are these big pieces of paper on your thing. Have you guys done this exercise before? Talk about this. So what you're going to do, this group is going to be risks of staying in an abusive relationship where any or all of the things that are happening on that power control wheel are going on. So think about risks of staying in an abusive relationship, as many as you can think of. Okay. And you all are going to think about risks of leaving. So you've left the abusive relationship. What are some risks you could think of that could happen to you? Okay. So you all have markers here. You all are staying. And you all are
You want to turn it around? Oh, I mean.
There's a 500% more likelihood that a DV homicide would happen if there's a firearm in the home at all. So there is a little bit misleading to when victims say, I want to get a firearm for safety. Often it's turned back on them. So that is something to consider when people are wanting that to be part of their safety plan. How safe is it and how likely do you think that it is that the person who's hurting you is gonna turn it back? Very. Okay. And nearly half of all female victims, because most of the statistics are very heteronormative. Nearly half of all female victims of homicide are murdered by a current or former. And often that's a murder-suicide. So when things are marketed as marketed, when things are in the news as murder-suicide, it's often domestic violence. And it's not coded that way. So. Very important to recognize the risks of staying and leaving, which is why I'm here and why you all are here, right? So what makes someone more vulnerable to interpersonal violence? That's both intimate partner and sexual violence. IPSV, that's the acronym that we use. Someone who struggles with substance or alcohol misuse could be more vulnerable. Has a disability, is transgender or gender nonconforming, specifically as a woman in the queer community, even more specifically, someone who identifies as bisexual is most highly. Experiences houselessness and or poverty, is Native American or Black, and has a diagnosed mental illness. All of those things are risk factors for experiencing violence. Also children, right? LGBTQ youth are often victims of violence too, so. And this is also more reasons not to leave. Where are they gonna go? There may be fewer resources, or they don't know where to turn. And there are more barriers to reaching out. And all these things are happening. So what are healthy relationships? We talked all about red flags, right? Things that you're gonna look for. There are, in those pie pieces, things that you can notice when those kinds of things are happening that people might kind of know what's going on. And you can notice like, they let me kind of stuff, right? You can see that kind of stuff. But what does a healthy relationship look like? Comfortable pace. Everyone likes where it's going and how fast it's going. Respect. You value one another's beliefs and opinions and love one another for who you are as a person, not always trying to change them, not always trying to make them do things that they don't want to do, or encouraging them to be better because you just don't like the way that they put away groceries or whatever it is, or they always load the dishwasher wrong. Trust, confidence that your partner won't do anything to hurt you or ruin the relationship. We're all human. We're going to hurt each other, right? But we have to trust that that person didn't intend to do it and will do the things that they need to do to repair it. Honesty, being truthful and candid without fearing repercussions. And equality, it's balanced. No one is putting in more effort than another person or taking more than the other person. That's the power and control piece. And these are all from One Love. These are their healthy relationship stuff. So this is 5 of them. You all are scribbling furiously, so I will pause. There are 5 more. Taking responsibility. When you mess up, just say you did it. How annoying is it in especially the workplace when your peer or something very clearly messed something up? No, just say that you messed up and I will forgive you so much faster. Please just fess up. Some humility is very, very important. So take responsibility for what you did wrong. Figure out what to do to fix it. Healthy conflict. We're not going to agree. You don't have to do it my way. I don't have to do it your way. But maybe there's a way we can meet in the middle, and disagreement isn't bad. Arguing isn't bad. It's the way you do it that could be bad. Independence. We were just talking about this at work today. When I go home after a training, my spouse knows not to speak to me for at least 45 minutes. Just don't do it. It will be better for all of us if you just don't speak to me for 45 minutes. And so I can be my own person. I can decompress. I can become the person that you love again after 45 minutes. So like, I can be myself without them, right? Fun. You gotta have fun. Relationships without fun are boring. You gotta do, and fun looks different to everyone. So my idea of going to a brewery and playing games may not be what someone else wants to do, but I could offer it and maybe they would think it's giving options. And kindness. Kindness and niceness are not the same. Do you all know what the difference is between being kind and being nice? What do you think? What do you think?
Kindness seems more like a behavior or an action.
Kindness could be an action. Okay, that's good thought. What else do you think? What do you think? What could be different between those two things?
Being honest.
Could be honesty. So say more about that. Honest about what?
Well, telling them the truth
Huh?
versus enabling or
Yeah.
deceiving.
Yeah,
Trying not to hurt their feelings.
absolutely. So kindness is support with boundaries. Niceness is doing whatever you can to keep the other person happy despite what you might be feeling or needing. So we always strive to be kind. We don't need to be nice. Okay? So that's a good distinction. So healthy relationships, these are some of the things that you should be looking for in kiddos, in their relationships with each other and with their parents. So these are just general healthy relationship behaviors. These don't have to just be about partners in a relationship. So all relationships should have these 10 things more often than not. Okay? But there's trauma involved, it can get complicated. It can disrupt that relationship. And so when we're thinking about trauma, it's in 3 parts. Hopefully you've seen this definition before. It's an event, series of events, or set of circumstances, could be any of those things, that's experienced by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening, and has lasting adverse effects on their functioning. So all 3 of those things have to be true. So what does that mean about how trauma is experienced with someone? What could that mean? What I think is a trauma, what overwhelms me and has lasting adverse effects on me and how I'm going to react in the future, may be different for you. So trauma can be different depending on what's happening, who it is, what kinds of protective factors they have in place, who their supports are, it can look different. So the same thing can happen to 2 different children, very similar. And one of them is experiencing trauma reactions, and one of them is not. But the same thing happens. So it has to be individualized. So when we're thinking about trauma reactions, have you seen how trauma reactions could look and what those could be like? We've heard of hyperarousal, or is this a new term? No? Who doesn't know what hyperarousal is? Or hasn't heard of it? I don't want to reteach things if you know what they are. You're not sure? Okay, so I'll go real quick. So our window of tolerance here in the middle is where we can do things that we have to do. Where we are okay, we are functioning, we can do this. Things could happen and we could feel a little bad about it, but we can still do the things even if we're feeling angry, right? If something happens and we move to dysregulated, either towards hyper or hypoarousal, doesn't matter. If we're dysregulated, now we can't cope with what's happening. Okay? If we move towards hyperarousal, that's getting erratic. That's getting big, that's getting angry, that's running around, that's yelling, that's being anxious, bumping your leg, right? Getting big, moving around. Hypoarousal is the exact opposite. That's the numbness. Someone mentioned feeling numb. So that's not doing anything. That's not moving. That's talking quietly. That's disassociating. That's scrolling on TikTok and not interacting with anyone else. So when we are dysregulated, anyone, what we do is have coping strategies to get ourselves back into our window of tolerance so that we can do the things that we need to do. The way that we extend our window of tolerance, every single one of us, is to do self-care. So self-soothing gets us back into our window of tolerance so that we can do self-care activities so that our window of tolerance gets bigger and we are not dysregulated as often. People who have experienced trauma have a very small window of tolerance and get dysregulated very easily. That's why self-care is so important. Did that answer for those of you who needed a little refresher? Okay. So that's why we use trauma-informed care. Because often the people that are coming to us that are needing help are dysregulated, have experienced trauma, are going to need that support. Remember, trauma is prevalent. Everyone has probably experienced some kind of trauma and needs some support from it. So we always move with trauma-informed care, and these are the 6 principles of trauma-informed care. Do you all use trauma-informed care at your agency?
Yes.
Yeah, good, good. So safety, making sure that they know what's going to happen, making sure that they can trust that what you say is truth. Making sure that their even perceived unsafety is taken seriously, especially with kids. We can know that's not going to happen. You know that that's like, I'm not going to do that. The people that I know aren't going to do that, but they think that it's unsafe. So we have to plan that, right? Choice. If they've experienced trauma or if they've experienced sexual violence or domestic violence, choice is something that was taken away, power and control, right? So giving them back as much choice as possible in as many situations as possible, even as small as, do you want red or blue juice? Very small. I know that makes me feel good. If I felt like I chose the red juice, I would. Empowerment, making sure we're not doing things for people, we're doing them with them. Making sure that we are walking alongside and not in front of, carrying. That's not going to make you long in this work if you're always doing things for, and it does a disservice to our clients. At some point, we don't want them to need us, right? That's our goal. Our goal is to give them the tools so that they can do it on their own. And if we're doing things for, we are being unethical. Trustworthy, if you say you're gonna do something, do it. That's the easiest way to do it. If you say you're gonna have an appointment or meet at the park or whatever, follow through with as much as possible. Collaboration, work together. Again, not doing things for, doing things with, and letting them lead what they want to do. And cultural humility. We are never going to know everything about cultures. I don't know everything about my own culture. I'm learning new things that white women do all the time. Like this Stanley Cup craze, I didn't even know it was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. And I should have known that as a white lady. But I didn't. So always learning things about our culture and things that we need to learn about ourselves and other people, and asking questions is helpful and not assuming. Okay? So those are our tenets of trauma-informed care. So we use trauma-informed care when someone discloses a trauma. First and foremost, just slow down. You don't have to fix it. They don't need you to fix it. They just need you to recognize that they've been hurt. So these are some of the things that could be said. I believe you. Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry that happened to you. It's a courage to share that with me. It's not your fault, and I'm here to help, and I care about you. So just slow down. Just respond like a human. You don't have to respond like a worker all the time. Just be a human first. It goes a long way. Other things you can do: validate, normalize, and believe. Always believe. We always harp on that. Try not to ask a lot of questions. They'll share what they want to. Always. And listen without skepticism or judgment. Especially with intimate partner violence. Do you know how many times on average it takes to leave an abusive relationship? It's 7 to 10. 7 to 10, yeah. It takes between 7 and 10 times to leave an abusive relationship when you're in the middle of it, partly because of that cycle of abuse, right? They pull you back in that honeymoon phase, and you care about them, right? Or there are kids involved, and so you want the kids to have the other parent and all of that stuff. It's complicated. So if they come to you and it's their first or second time that they've left, and you come at them with, okay, we gotta do this and this and this, and you gotta leave, and all, they're not coming back to you for help. Because now you've become an unsafe person. You've become a person that judged them for their choices, and if they come back to you after they've been back, they're not going to trust you. So make sure that when they tell you what's going on, that you just listen and say, thank you for telling me. I'm so glad that you trusted me with that information, and what do you want to do next? Because remember, you should leave is not the right thing. That's not helpful. So, and then lastly, a confusing account is probably, that account is true. So, trauma gets coded in your brain differently and it's disjointed. It's memories, it's usually coded to senses and the timeline's all messed up. So if someone is saying things that happened 2 days ago, and then they go to just yesterday, and then they go to 5 minutes ago, and then they talk about this phone call, and then they talk about the future, that they've experienced trauma. And yeah, it's confusing for us, but that makes it easier for you to just listen to figure out what they're telling you, because they've trusted you with that information. And then you can start to say, okay, so did this happen before this? Once they've started to get it out, so you can start to get a picture of what's going on and how you can best safety plan. That make sense? Okay. So we're not gonna focus on safety planning today. We don't have time for that. But we do have time for supportive statements, which is similar to what I just talked about a couple slides ago. So when we're talking about trauma-informed care, it's not what's wrong with you, that's pathologizing. That's saying that their choices are wrong and they as a human are bad, which is not helpful. Instead, it's what happened to you to make you react in this way, to make you make these choices. What has happened that this is your reality, and how are we supporting you? So, how you say things is more important than what you say. So get quieter, lean in a little, be soft, right? It's not about you. If something that they're saying is making you feel like you want to yell or bounce your leg or starting to feel anxious, you are having a trauma response because of what they are saying. And so you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself in that moment and tagging out when you're making it about you and not about them. So this isn't the time to say things like, when I was in your situation, or I understand exactly what's happening because my sister did. Not about you, not about your story. It's all about them. Listen to understand, not to respond. I know we're always trying to go, go, go. And one of the things advocates do is want to fix. It's called the advocate reflex, the writing reflex. We want to take information someone is giving us and immediately come back with an answer that's going to help the situation completely and wholly. And that's not really what they probably need right now. They just need someone that hears them. So listen to understand, not to respond or fix. Don't shame or victim blame. Surefire way for them to clam up completely and maybe not come back and talk to you. Hold space, even if you are uncomfortable. So one of the things about holding space, the window of tolerance, where I was talking about the hypoarousal and hyperarousal. If someone is hyper aroused and you're telling them, can you just sit down? We can talk about this. Let's just sit and be calm. What they're doing is coping with what they're feeling, and if you keep asking them to come and sit, you're not helping. Walk with them, go in a circle. If someone is yelling, don't yell back with them, but understand that they are trying to get something out and express something that they need to express to you, and they in some ways felt safe enough to do that with you. Okay, so hold that space. If you're being yelled at, that's different. But if they're just yelling, sometimes we just have to be okay with yelling. I've heard yelling from our walk-in room so many times, and then I hear the advocate go, yeah, you sound really passionate about that. It's like, yeah, that is your strength in there, right? Like you're passionate about getting this help and you're yelling about it. That's fine. So try not to change how people are coping in that space by telling them to do something that would make you feel more comfortable. So sitting in a quiet space may make you feel more comfortable, but it won't make them. And then know your available resources. Once they've come down a little or come up a little, if they were hypo-aroused and are in a space where their lid is not flipped. So when we're in crisis, our frontal lobe just, we pop our top, and we are not thinking about planning. We're not thinking about the future. We are just feeling all of our feelings and trying to get back into our window of tolerance. Once they feel safe, they feel heard, they feel like you are a trustworthy person, their lid comes back on, and then you can start to plan. then you can start to give them resources, because they will actually hear it. If you're doing a lot of planning while their lid is flipped, they're not gonna hear a thing. So, we're gonna practice some supportive statements. So, the way that this works, I hope I have 20, I think I have 20 individual statements that are on different slides. What I'm gonna do is read the slide like I'm a client. Some of them are like I'm an adult, some of them are like I'm a kid, okay? And each of you individually will respond using a supportive statement or hearing that person in some way without fixing it, without trying to plan for anything, just hearing them and responding like a human. Okay? Now the real question, which table's starting first? Who's starting first? It's just easiest to go in a circle. So you all want to go first? And who of here wants to go first? You'll go first. All right, are you ready? And remember, it's okay if we make mistakes. It's okay if you need to phone a friend. We're all learning here, right? Try first, but if you feel stuck, give panic eyes to one of your friends, okay? All right, here we go. My mom wouldn't have hurt me if I wasn't such a bad kid. Thank you for sharing. To your right.
Oh, great.
Sorry. I don't like going over to grandpa's. He always makes me sit on his lap and I don't want to. You don't make them easy on purpose.
Yeah, it's more like, I hear you and I understand, but I don't. I'm not sure what else to say.
Does anyone else have any help they want to give? I hear
That's
you.
the
I
course
understand.
that you told me then.
Yeah, thank you for telling me. That is good to hear. Good. All right. My dad told me it was his fault that the pastor touched me. Well, your lid just flipped away. So probably. Just if.
The first thing, out of my house, here's
Yeah.
a child.
Mhm.
That's not true.
That's not true, yeah, it's not your fault. Yeah, that's not true, that's not your fault. My sister hates me because I told my teacher what our parents did to us. I ruined everything.
I'm sure your sister doesn't really hate you. And I'm sure that she will do something to show her love to you.
Is that fixing it? Is it? What do you think? Is that fixing it? Is that maybe telling them something that might not happen, which might break trust? Maybe. If you know them really well, maybe you do know that the sister would do that. I don't know how close you all are with them, but what do you think? What's another option? Anyone? Crowdsource. What do you think?
I'm sorry you feel that way, let me tell me more.
Yeah, you wanna tell me more? I'm sorry that you feel that way. Right? I don't think that you ruined things. I'm glad you told me, right? Okay. Moving on. After he hit me, I should have left, but I was so scared. I still went back to his place and acted like I was fine. This is me. Yeah. So like if one of the parents keeps going back, What do you think? Maybe validate a feeling that they showed?
Yeah.
What do you think? What would that sound like?
I'm sorry you were so scared.
Or, that does sound scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That does sound scary. How are you right now? Acted like I was someone that they weren't, okay? So yeah, validating, normalizing what's going on. It's okay that you went back.
Is it
I'm
okay
still here.
to make a judgment in that and saying like, that was wrong for him to hit you and I'm sorry that you were so scared?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I would say that is scary.
that is scary, yeah. Validate that feeling, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I'm so sorry. I've been talking for 30 minutes straight. I know you're probably busy and have other people to talk to.
I have all the time in the world to listen. I'm not in a hurry.
Uh-huh. Make sure, I don't know how long you all talk to people, but there might be a boundary thing there. Like, you don't actually have all the world, right? All the time in the world, so. I have 30 more minutes here with you. You can talk as much as you want in that time. Right? Cause we don't only give more than we have. That's gonna burn us out. So,
Mhm.
good. All right, ready? Who's first over here? You wanna be first? Okay. My mom picked her boyfriend over me, but I don't wanna lose her.
That sounds really scary.
That sounds scary. Of course she's your mom, you don't wanna lose her, right? Ready? Okay. My friends are worried about me and just want me to be happy.
Yes, and same here, and I do too. But don't know if that's
What do you think? Same here, I also want you to be happy. What do y'all think?
You don't have to always be happy.
Oh, that's good.
right.
Yeah, you don't always have to be happy to be healthy and loved and cared for.
Would it be okay to ask, what are they worried about?
That's what I was.
Yeah. Yeah, my friends are worried about me, just want me to be happy, so what are they seeing that's worrying them? What are they worried about? Yeah,
If they're good friends, if they're worried about you.
Yeah. right, ready? When I told my girlfriend I wasn't ready to have sex, she listened and we cuddled instead.
Oh man, these are hard ones to get to you.
I'm doing my job right.
mhm. Jason, and we cuddled instead. How did that make you feel?
Yeah,
That's a
that's
great-
good.
Mhm.
How did that make you feel? Yeah. I did throw in some positive ones, cause it's not all negative, right?
That's probably. That's good. Yeah.
He set a
Not
boundary,
really.
or they set a
Sure.
boundary, and it was listened to.
Yeah.
My dad brought me my favorite candy when he visited last week.
Oh, that sounds great. Tell me how that make you feel?
Yeah. I always have fun when my mom and stepdad take us out.
What do you guys do?
Yeah, what do you guys do? What's fun? What's your favorite thing that's happened? Right, ready to start over? We'll see how many more we have. I don't think everyone's gonna get a second one. But when I'm crying, my mom holds me and sings a song. What song does she choose? Yeah. Or I'm glad that you have her there when you're crying. I'm glad she's good, a helpful person. Another volunteer says, I just want to take them home. I know I can help them more than their foster parent. Yeah, I've gotta settle into that feeling, right? I know I've heard that from advocates. Like, I could just do it all. They could just live in my basement. No, they can't. What might you say if you heard that?
Besides quoting policies
Yeah.
and procedures.
What?
He said besides quoting policies and procedures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Let's talk more about that. Yeah, like, we can't do that. Yeah, we can't do that, but it is a feeling that we have often, even if it's something that we do not act, right? I don't know if you know this statistic, but social workers or people who are therapists, the number one reason why they lose their license is because they have sex with their clients. The number one reason.
Okay, can I just tell you that I took a psychology class last year and that was the very first thing they talked about.
Yeah.
I was so shocked.
The number one reason why they lose their license is because entangled boundaries. You learn so much about that person, you've helped them, you've supported them, it's likely a long-term thing. Therapy can take years, and that's what it takes to be in a relationship, like you're vulnerable with them, you trust them, you're honest. All of these things are hallmarks of a healthy relationship, but then when you get the power dynamic involved, messy, messy, messy. So, number one reason, so don't do that. Don't do that.
No problem.
Don't take the kids home, don't, none of it, right? A volunteer says, I know I'm doing all I can and this still sucks.
We hear that a lot.
Mhm.
That's so.
Maybe you shouldn't be volunteering.
Well, I think it's more of like, we have volunteers that they put in all their effort and sometimes
right.
court case goes in a different
Yep,
direction
yes.
than they want to see happen and kind of have to learn to make peace with that.
Mhm.
Did you just say like, I know it's really hard?
Yeah.
I know this isn't.
I know it's really hard,
It's hard to be
It's-
a volunteer.
it's hard to be a volunteer, it's hard to work with, when decisions are made that you don't agree with,
Right.
right?
And I think we have to hope that we planted a seed
Yes.
and let the kid know that they're worthy of somebody caring about them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of the, I don't know what word I'm trying to use. A resiliency factor, like a
Yes.
very big one, is a caring adult in your life,
Mhm.
right? So if they have at least one caring adult, they are more resilient than people who have. Yeah, so it's likely you are doing all the things that you can, and it just still, systems suck. They suck. Thank you for holding my hand in court. I was scared.
I thought that was a scary experience also.
Yeah, that was scary. All those people, everyone looking at you. I know that terrifies me. Okay. I told my stepmom I didn't want to see my aunt and uncle at Christmas, and we didn't go.
Yeah.
What do you think? How might you respond to this kiddo?
I'm glad your stepmom listened to you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah, get excited. Kids like
And
to
she
get
felt like
excited.
she could speak up
Yeah,
in the first place.
exactly. I'm glad that they're safe, that you can share what you need. All right. I can't believe you came to my court when you said you would. People don't usually show up.
Well, I told you, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Any other things you might want to say?
I could just say that you care about them.
Care about you? I'm sorry other people didn't show up,
Mhm.
but when I say I'm gonna do something, I will.
I'm happy to be here to support you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's all of them. Oh, yeah. So, how did that feel? To respond just as a human to things people are saying? Was it hard? Sometimes, yeah. And it's a lot easier when I'm not staring at you. Yeah, there's another element of, but that's what clients are gonna do. That's what kids are gonna do. They're gonna say the most off the wall things and you have to be prepared with, hey, I've got something to say about that. Of course I do. So thank you for practicing. It gets easier the more that you do it. So remember, you can be everything for children. You cannot fix their problems. You can be a safe person. You can make things suck a little bit less. Right?
Love it.
Just a little
Yeah,
bit,
that's
even just a
good.
little bit is enough. Right? Oh, I talk too much. Okay, so. What questions do you have about intimate partner violence or sexual violence, trauma-informed care, and supportive statements? Anything coming up that you want to ask? Yeah.
I do have a question. I hate to take it as not myself.
No.
But I do have the case was a lot of domestic violence. And so we've been in this, let's just say 5, 6 months. And it took weeks before she disclosed anything.
Kid, parent.
Parents.
Okay.
And so she just like keeps here. And so I was struggling with being frustrated because their last Friday, she told me some big stuff. And I was like, I should let it go that. So what, I'm trying to understand why.
Why victims often start with little stuff and work their way up to big stuff?
Yes.
Well, part of it is trust, right? You're a stranger, they don't know you. You also could be part of a system that has hurt them in the past. And so they are worried about opening up with big traumatic things too quickly and then that being used against them. Could be. Yeah. And the way that trauma codes in the brain, right? So maybe they are focused on the here and now, their kids are being taken away or whatever their big thing is. And once that thing is starting to get resolved and they're starting to see that, okay, things are moving, I am able to do what I need to do, all of that. Now they feel safe enough and comfortable enough and in a place where they can disclose bigger things. And so now they're dealing with that thing. Could be. All of those, it could be all of those things, it could be none of those things. I don't know that, but
Like,
yeah.
this happened, like, you should have told this, because there were a few things that we should have gone back here and told that. And why are you just saying it now to me?
Yeah, that's trauma. That is absolutely trauma. And one of the things that we as advocates have had to, at the center, have had to take out of our vocabulary is should. Should is not a thing that we say. You should have done this, you should have done that. These are your options. So now that you told me this information, I appreciate that you felt safe enough to share that with me. That took courage. I'm glad we're in that place. What can we do with it now? What do you want to do with it now? Do you want to come talk with us? Do you want to try to reopen a case? Do you want to try to reach out to a support system that hurt you? What do you want to do with this now that you've shared it with me, if anything? Or do you just want me to hold it for a while?
How do we get clients, like we have parents who, you know, they maybe, we've seen physical abuse for sure, but where they're
I need to be really clear. Physical abuse between the parents or against the kids?
Sorry,
No, you're
physical
fine.
abuse in the
parents,
parents, so
okay.
intimate partner, like physical violence.
Yeah.
But without breaking out the power wheel and control, how do we kind of start kind of setting the stage or having the conversation of like, you have all of these other elements. So yeah, maybe he hasn't hit you, but he was hitting the dog, or he was using the children to manipulate you to get you to do other things. How do you begin
Exactly
those?
what you just said.
Okay,
Just all
just
of the-
having those things, just saying those things.
Yes, so it helps to be familiar yourself with the power and control wheel, all of those things on it, so that you don't have to look at it and go, what kind of is that? Or prepare beforehand, like I know that last time they talked about not being able to go to the grocery store, or having to get their change back. So that's clearly financial abuse. Maybe that's something I want to talk about. And so you can say things like, you told me last time that he was hitting the dog. And I know that that is a precursor to hurting your children or yourself. How do you feel? Do you feel safe in the home?
Mhm.
And they can absolutely say yes. Or they can say no, and then you can start to plan around that. right? If they say yes, then if you harp on it too much, they're gonna stop telling you stuff,
Mhm.
right? So be very clear, but yeah, you can notice anything. We have used this with clients. We've sat it down and said, so you've disclosed this, talking about physical violence, but also what you're telling me, you hit 8 others of these.
Mhm.
It's not just physical violence that is intimate partner violence. There could be no physical violence and it still be intimate partner violence. It's just a pattern of these behaviors. So before you do a question, I'm gonna tell you how you can get to our services.
Yeah.
So we serve everyone. Center for Women and Families is a little bit of misnomer. We serve anyone who's experienced violence at any point in their lifetime, as long as it's related to IPSV. Okay? Any single person. So in our Southern Indiana program, we don't just serve people who are in immediate danger. That is something that is a requirement for a shelter. But for the Southern Indiana program, we have a caseload of people who are just thinking about leaving and aren't sure yet. We have people who are planning on leaving and figuring that out. Or we have people who have been away from the abuse for a long time and just still need some help. We have that full spectrum. And if you know that we used to have a shelter on Charlestown Road, did you all know that? It closed because people were needing the before and after and not really the I need shelter. In Indiana, they were not identifying that they needed that immediate safe space for that long period of time. We do have options for if people are in high lethality situations, getting them somewhere to get support. We just don't have that. We just don't have a shelter. And that shelter was only 10 beds, 10 rooms, 10 families. Now we can serve up to 80 people at the same time. So we're supporting more people and they need different things. So all of that. We can also support secondary survivors. So that's people who are supporting people who have experienced violence. So that parents of kids who have been assaulted, new partners of people who have been assaulted or in a previous IPV relationship. So we can also support that. And then community, I'm here. So that's how we serve the community. Part of the reason why we can do this is mobile advocacy. So you've probably heard meet people where they are. We meet people where they are literally and figuratively. We do have a physical building that is locked that people can come to our offices and meet with us, but we can also meet with them on their lunch break. We can meet with them at your all's meeting that you're having with them. We can meet them at a park so that their kids can play while we have a session. We can meet them wherever they want, except their homes. That's unsafe based on the work that we do. We do not meet in people's homes. So we want to reduce barriers. So one of the things when you're thinking about intimate partner violence, it's possible they're tracking like the mileage in their car. Where are they going? Or checking their phone to see whether they're at work when they say they are. So we can meet them at those places so their perpetrator doesn't know that they're meeting with us and getting support. This is what we do. Direct client services, we have 4 case managers. Yes, 4 case managers that have caseloads. We have 1 person who is just doing outreach in the community like this. And then we have 1 person who focuses on court doing protective orders and filing things and all of that stuff. They are not lawyers. None of our people are lawyers. We cannot speak to a judge or on behalf of people. We can just do emotional support in the court. So yeah, that's court accompaniment. Safety planning, big one. We're always safety planning. We can't safety plan with everyone. That's one of the reasons why we do trainings like this, so that you can start that conversation. And then when their lid is a little bit back down, get them to us. And then prevention, outreach, and education. We do trainings, awareness, brochures, which you've already asked for more. Got it. And I have a packet of stuff if you all want to take that. That's what we do. We have 8 of us that do all of this work in Clark and Floyd counties and some of the outreach counties, 8 full-time.
Where are you located at?
We are at 1301 Acres Avenue. So to get people to us, you can call our crisis line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's actually answered in Louisville, but they refer to us. So they're getting the same support that they would get here. Make sure that you say you're from Southern Indiana or like a referral to the Southern Indiana Center so that they make sure to get you to the right program. And we have walk-in hours Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. not everyone wants to talk on the phone. So if they want to learn what we do, just walk in to do some safety planning, wanna figure out what's going on, Monday through Friday, 10 to 5 on Acres Avenue. That is the old health department on Norton Clark's campus, because they changed their name. So Norton Clark's campus on Acres Avenue. We are closed on weekends and some holidays, so like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. But we would have a sign, and the crisis line is always. So. After hours and weekends, we do have a 24/7 hospital advocacy response, so if someone presents at the hospital having been assaulted or injured because of intimate partner violence, an advocate should be sent to meet with them from the crisis line, so it's probably not going to be us. So they do safety planning, the lethality assessment to see if shelter is an option, potentially transportation assistance, finding shelter, and then referrals to us or other people. Okay. That's the end of my presentation. The objectives are back up here to see if we covered it all, or if you have any more questions.